we all recall the graffiti, or as some would say, sabotage, to our beautiful Fruit Street sitting area. Well, it's with great pleasure that I commend the Parks Department for its prompt response to restoring this idyllic spot to its original grandeur. There was one area that didn't escape permanent damage, and that was a sign describing, among other things, Lady Middag's changing the street signs to fruit names. The sign basically describes how Lady Middagh found the naming of the streets after aristocratic families pretentious, and consequently took it upon herself to remove street signs and put up those of her own fruity design. Well, in the Heights, we have all heard this folktale, but I think it is time to put the story to rest. It just isn't true. Even in the wonderful book entitled February House, the author says, late in life, Miss Middagh had decided that it was wrong for the streets to bear the names of the most prominent residents. So she began slipping out late at night and tearing down the street signs. Each time the signs were replaced. The opinionated Miss Middagh tore them down again until the city gave up and changed the street names to the fruits Pineapple, Orange, Cranberry Street, and so on. By the time of her death, Miss Middagh's name was the only one remaining on the street signs of the North Heights, and so she left this earth a satisfied woman. The Hicks brothers owned this property as farmland. And once they decided to divide their farmland into lots of 100 by 25, years before the incorporation of the village of Brooklyn in 1816, they named the streets, in all probability, to promote their products, with the exception of pineapples, which at the time were symbolic of hospitality. These lots were laid out onto streets that are clearly shown on Jeremiah Lott's map, drawn up before 1816. But released soon after the village of Brooklyn was incorporated. Pierpont soon followed with his own map in 1819 by Poppleton. In short, the streets were clearly defined prior to even the subdivision of the Hicks Street property farmland. Here is an excerpt from the Daily Eagle that you might find interesting. And I quote, in the year 1806, Jeremiah Lott, surveyor, executed for them a map, we're talking about the Hicks brothers now, of their property, in which the present arrangement is distinctly shown with the identical names for all the cross streets. While the poor, benighted rich men of Brooklyn were building their fine villas and laying out their gardens upon Front and Sand streets, this map, big with all the promise and potential of the future, slumbered peacefully in a cabinet drawer in the old stone house. I can imagine the Hicks brothers taking it out upon occasions and talking over prospects as the news came that another fine house had been built up on Sand Street. They must have discussed often and often the grave question whether the time had not yet come to show their hand and develop the glory of Clover Hill, which was the name of Brooklyn Heights prior, and lay out Hicks, Willow, and Columbia streets and the cross streets to the river Poplar, Middagh, Cranberry, Orange, Pineapple, and Clark. The map ended there. The point is, the streets were identified by the Hicks brothers prior to the actual street's existence. We know this by looking at the lot map, which was drawn up before any actual subdivision even took place. In short, the Hicks brothers named the streets Cranberry, Orange, and Pineapple.